Egbert was the king of the West Saxons from 802 to 839. He served Wessex for 12 years. Ethelwulf was the king of the Anglo-Saxon from 839 to 856. He served Anglo-Saxon for 17 years. Ethelbald was the king of Wessex from 856 to 860. He served Wessex for 4 years. Ethelbert was the king of Wessex from 860 to 866. He served Wessex for 6 years. Ethelred I was the king of Wessex and Kent from 866 to 871. He served Wessex and Kent for 5 years. Alfred the Great was the king of Wessex from 871 to 899. He served Wessex for 28 years. Edward the Elder was the Anglo-Saxon king from 899 to 924. He served Anglo-Saxon for 25 years. Athelstan was the king of England from 924 to 939. He served England for 15 years. Edmund I was the king of England from 939 to 946. He served England for 7 years. Eadred was the king of England from 946 to 955. He served England for 9 years. Edwig was the king of English from 955 to 959. He served English for 4 years. Edgar was the king of England from 959 to 975. He served England for 16 years. Edward the Martyr was the king of England from 975 to 978. He served England for 3 years. Ethelred the Unready was the king of England from 978 to 1016. He served England for 38 years. Edmund II was the king of England from 1016 to 1016. He served England for 1 year. Canute was the king of England, Denmark and Norway from 1016 to 1035. He served these 3 countries for 19 years. Harold I was the king of England from 1035 to 1040. He served England for 5 years. Hardicanute was the king of Denmark and England from 1040 to 1042. He served Denmark and England for 2 years. Edward the Confessor was the king of England from 1042 to 1066. He served England for 24 years. Harold II was the king of England from 1066 to 1066. He served England for 1 year. William I the Conqueror was the king of England from 1066 to 1087. He served England for 21 years. William II was the king of England from 1087 to 1100. He served England for 13 years. Henry I was the king of England from 1100 to 1135. He served England for 35 years. Stephen was the king of England from 1135 to 1154. He served England for 19 years. Henry II was the king of England from 1154 to 1189. He served England for 35 years. Richard I was the King of England from 1189 to 1199. He served England for 10 years. John was the King of England from 1199 to 1216. He served England for 17 years. Henry III was the King of England from 1216 to 1272. He served England for 56 years. Edward I was the King of England from 1272 to 1307. He served England for 35 years. Edward II was the King of England from 1307 to 1327. He served England for 20 years. Edward III was the King of England from 1327 to 1377. He served England for 50 years. Richard II was the King of England from 1377 to 1399. He served England for 22 years. Henry IV was the King of England from 1399 to 1413. He served England for 14 years. Henry V was the King of England from 1413 to 1422. He served England for 9 years. Henry VI was the King of England from 1422 to 1461. He served England for 39 years. Edward IV was the King of England from 1461 to 1470. He served England for 9 years. Henry VI restored as the King of England from 1470 to 1471. He served England for 2 years in this period. Edward IV restored as the King of England from 1471 to 1483. He served England for 12 years in this period. Edward V was the King of England from 1483 to 1483. He served England for 1 year. Richard III was the King of England from 1483 to 1485. He served England for 2 years. Henry VII was the King of England from 1485 to 1509. He served England for 24 years. Henry VIII was the King of England from 1509 to 1547. He served England for 38 years. Edward VI was the King of England and Ireland from 1547 to 1553. He served England and Ireland for 6 years. Mary I was the Queen of England from 1553 to 1558. He served England for 5 years. Elizabeth I was the Queen of England from 1558 to 1603. He served England for 45 years. James I was the King of England and Scotland from 1603 to 1625. He served England and Scotland for 22 years. Charles I was the King of Great Britain and Ireland from 1625 to 1649. He served Great Britain and Ireland for 24 years. Oliver Cromwell was the English statesman from 1653 to 1658. He served English for 5 years. Richard Cromwell was the English statesman from 1658 to 1659. He served English for 2 years. Charles II was the King of Great Britain and Ireland from 1660 to 1685. He served Great Britain and Ireland for 25 years. James II was the King of England, Scotland and Ireland from 1685 to 1688. He served these three countries for 3 years. William III was the King, and Mary II was the Queen of England, Scotland and Ireland from 1689 to 1702. They served these three countries for 13 years. Anne was the Queen of Great Britain and Ireland from 1702 to 1714. She served Great Britain and Ireland for 12 years. George I was the King of Great Britain from 1714 to 1727. He served Great Britain for 13 years. George II was the King of Great Britain from 1727 to 1760. He served Great Britain for 33 years. George III was the King of Great Britain from 1760 to 1820. He served Great Britain for 60 years. George IV was the King of United Kingdom from 1820 to 1830. He served United Kingdom for 10 years. William IV was the King of Great Britain from 1830 to 1837. He served Great Britain for 7 years. Victoria was the Queen of United Kingdom from 1837 to 1901. She served United Kingdom for 64 years. Edward VII was the King of Great Britain and Ireland from 1901 to 1910. He served Great Britain and Ireland for 9 years. George V was the King of United Kingdom from 1910 to 1936. He served United Kingdom for 26 years. Edward VIII was the King of United Kingdom from 1936 to 1936. He served United Kingdom for 1 year. George VI was the King of United Kingdom from 1936 to 1952. He served United Kingdom for 16 years. Elizabeth II was the Queen of United Kingdom from 1952 to 2022. She served United Kingdom for 70 years. Charles III is the current King of United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland from 2022. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share and subscribe.